Good afternoon, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Welcome back and nice to have you here. I was away for a while for family reasons, but I'm back. So thank you for joining me. I have several news to share with you. First, I will share very good news for the people suffering in Tigray region, especially on humanitarian aid. So I will start with a tweet from World Food Program about life-saving food items and others arriving in Mekele safely. Let me read. Hashtag breaking news at World Food Program led convoys of over 100 trucks just arrived safely into Mekele, carrying 3,500 metric tons of food and other life-saving humanitarian cargo. World Food Program and partners will continue trying to ensure supplies flow in at scale to meet the urgent needs across northern Ethiopia. Credit BBC. So this is very, very important development for the people suffering in Mekele and other parts of Tigray. It had been a big issue. Humanitarian aid blocked by Ethiopian authorities by using different excuses and search. Now I think they are listening to the global community now. They are responding, even though it's too late. But so 100 trucks arriving, and it could save many lives. So they should allow it. They should not use different excuses to create humanitarian catastrophe in Tigray region. So that's a good sign. It should continue, and we'll report to you as things develop. So that's a good sign. But the war at the war front still is not letting down. Heavy fighting going on in northern part between TDF and those Amara militia, Ethiopian federal force, and the militia came from different parts of Ethiopia. So heavy fighting in a Wallo front, and also some reports of like TDF is like about 25 kilometers away from Gondar. And the hike also, the city of Hike is under the control of TDF, but it's not confirmed by independent media. But the thing is still heavy fighting for the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and TDF is still holding the major cities from Amara and try to take more. But on Ethiopian side, Amara region, they are, using all the resources against TDF. So the fight is heavy. We'll continue watching it, and we'll report to you as it develops. And on the Oromia region side, also OLF is still becoming a formidable force, taking like the relatively big city like Gimbi, and forming its own administration, its own civilian administration, allowing the people to lead themselves. So putting more pressure on PP to run away from these areas. So the war is going on, major development. in different areas, Benishangul, and you know, so the fighting is going on. It's very tense, very tough. Claim and the counter claim continue, so we'll report to you when it's clear to report. Thank you again. I have some other news to read, then a couple of videos. I'll make it short today. Ethiopian National Defense Force says it killed 50 fighters attempted to cross from Sudan. Sudanese army dismissed accusation as baseless. On Friday, the Ethiopian National Defense Force said it has killed 50 mercenaries working with the Tigrayan forces who attempted to cross into Ethiopia from Sudan to attack the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, also known as GERD, and halt the continuing of its operation. The statement quoted Mekele Zone Command Post Operation Coordinator Colonel Seifer Ingi as saying, the enemy planned for a long time to disturb this region. Our forces have taken decisive action against enemy movement, despite the stiff resistance put on by the enemy. They were defeated by superiority of our heroic army. That's the claim on Ethiopian side. The colonel disclosed that light and heavy weaponry, anti-vehicle mines, explosives, and various high-end equipment were seized. The colonel also accused the TPLF of colluding with Ethiopia's historical enemies to dismantle the Renaissance Dam. He added, our heroic defense force is doing its duty by securing the region. On its part, the Sudanese army dismissed the statement by the Ethiopian National Defense Force as baseless accusation in a statement yesterday. Brigadier Al-Tahir Abu Haja, the spokesperson, said of the Sudanese army, Sudan and its army do not interfere in the internal issue of neighboring Ethiopia or other countries, he added. This statement reflects the harsh reality faced by the Ethiopian regime because of the continuing violation of the rights of the Ethiopian people. Ethiopia and Sudan relations have been soaring over the long-standing border dispute and tripartite talks over the GERD, as both exchange blame over the failure of talks on GERD, as well as the border disputes. Credit Addis Standard. Sudan sees weapon shipment from Ethiopia. The Sudanese authorities on Sunday seized 72 boxes of Russian-made weapons that arrived in Khartoum from Addis Ababa via Ethiopian Airlines. The Empowerment Removal Committee tasked with dismantling the former Islamist regime said that it had informed the relevant authorities that a shipment of weapons was its way to the country from Addis Ababa and it would arrive on Saturday. Wejidi says a member of the committee stated that the weapons arrived in Ethiopia from Russia in May 2019. He added that Ethiopian authorities had seized the weapons for the past 2 years before authorizing its shipment to Khartoum recently. According to Salah, the 72 bags contain weapons and night vision goggles, were destined to be used in crimes against the state, impeding the democratic change and preventing the transition to the civil state. The official news agency said investigations are underway about these weapons, adding that this shipment may link to the dissolved Popular Security of the banned National Congress Party. Credit Sudan Tribune. So this is a dangerous move on part of Ethiopian government using Ethiopian Airlines, which is civilian airlines, to transport weapons to Sudan. And it has been accused by OLA and others in the past. Ethiopian Airlines, a civilian airlines transporting weapons and soldiers. So it's a crime. It's a crime, and it could endanger, civilians uh, who might use Ethiopian Airlines as a transportation if they are, come under attack because they are transporting soldiers and weapons. So why they keep for 2 years? These weapons came in 2019, and but the Ethiopian side, they say it is legal, everything is normal operation. I have the statement on the Ethiopian side too. Ethiopia says shipment of weapons to Sudan, hunting guns with proper documents. That's the Ethiopian side claim. It is a hunting gun. In a statement it released this morning, Ethiopian Airlines clarified the shipment of weapons to Sudan is illegal and the commercial transportation of hunting guns with all proper documents of the shipment, the shipper, and consignee. The shipment was also cleared by both Ethiopian and the Sudanese authority. Ethiopian said with an attachment of air way bill or consignment note. Yes, I have consignment note, but it's not clear. It's not clear to read. So Ethiopia said this is a just legal operation. Ethiopian Airlines said that the hunting guns were held by security authorities in Addis Ababa for a long time for verification, and the consignee sued Ethiopia in Sudanese court to either deliver the hunting guns or pay close to up to US dollar 250,000 as compensation. So this recent development come as a tension between Ethiopia and Sudan are rising over a border dispute and the stall talk over mega dam gird. It also comes in the backdrop of the Ethiopian Sudanese military exchanging blame over a recent incident in Benishangul Gumuz Mekele zone. Credit Addis Standard. So I don't understand if it's a legal operation, why it takes 2 years to clear the item if it's a legal business. So that's, Ethiopia may be just saying it to avoid consequences from international community for using civilian airlines to transport weapons into Sudan for some reason, probably to help some opposition group in Sudan. So that's a claim and a counterclaim. But anyway, it's a dangerous move to use civilian airlines for military operations. Department of State tweet for Labor Day. Today is a Labor Day, so we should appreciate those who are working hard. So State Department released this tweet. I will read to you. This hashtag Labor Day, we recognize the contributions and achievement of the hardworking women and the men of America, including frontline health workers and the first responders who work to keep us safe, and colleagues serving over country around the world. Thank you. That's a tweet from State Department concerning Labor Day. Please enjoy it safely. Another statement from U.S. State Department on the uh, seizure of power in Guinea, a West African country. The United States condemned today's event in Conakry, actually it's yesterday. Violence and any extra constitutional measures will only erode Guinea's prospects for peace, stability, and prosperity. These actions could limit the ability of the United States and the Guinea's other international partners to support the country as it navigates a path toward national unity and a brighter future for the Guinean people. We urge all parties to forego violence and any effort not to supported by the Constitution and stand by the rules of law. We reiterate our encouragement of process of national dialogue to address concerns sustainably and transparently to enable a peaceful and democratic way forward for Guinea to realize its full potential. So that is a U.S. State Department on the coup in Guinea-Bissau, and they calling on to avoid violence and have maybe peaceful transfer. A coup in Guinea. Guinea's new junta leaders seek to tighten grip on power. Conakry, Guinea. Guinea's new military leaders sought to tighten their grip on power Monday after overthrowing President Alpha Conde, ordering the soldiers from his presidential guard to join the junta forces and barring government officials from leaving the country. After putting the West African national back after putting the West African nation back under military rule for the first time in over a decade, the junta already had dissolved the National Assembly and the country's constitution. On Monday, regional military commanders replaced Guinea's governors. Junta leader Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya said the military regime would not pursue vendettas against political enemies, though he also told officials from Conde's deposed government to turn over their passports. Credit Associated Press. So that's all my news from reading part. So Guinea is experiencing a coup. I hope it will be a safe transfer. For some reason, the soldiers took over power, and the president is under arrest, and now replaced the governors, suspended the constitution. I didn't hear major things so far. It looks like smooth. We don't know. Military coup usually end up into dictatorship with, you know, bloodshed mostly. So far, Guinea is smooth transfer, even though there's some gunfire, but I didn't hear major issues. So that's the updates I have for today. I have two more. One is on a video for Guinea. Al Jazeera reports on the situation, and then Indian farmers are protesting against the government. That's it. Let's listen. There you go.
So we begin with this breaking news story out of Guinea, which we've been covering for a few hours now. President Alpha Conde is reportedly being held by a group of soldiers. There's been heavy gunfire near the presidential palace in the capital, Conakry. The military has been deployed on the streets and is urging people to stay home. Now, a video has been circulating among local media in Guinea showing President Conde being detained by Army Special Forces. In the video, Conde is asked if he was tortured or mistreated, to which he responded, no. Now, let's show you where all this is happening. This is the presidential palace in the Kaloum business district of Conakry, where heavily armed soldiers have been seen guarding the area. The exact whereabouts of President Conde are unknown. It was earlier reported he was near the presidential palace at Hotel Kaloum. Joining us now on the phone is Yusuf Ba, a journalist in Guinea, joining us from Conakry. Yusuf, bring us up to speed with the situation. When we spoke earlier, you reported that gunfire was still ongoing in Conakry. What's been happening right now?
Presently, the situation is still confusing. Still shooting going on. Just call another source now saying there's negotiation going on between the special force, some government officer. Seems like President Alpha Conde is in the hands of the members of the special force. There's another picture just now. Another journalist just called my attention to the President Alpha Conde was transported into a jeep, maybe to this particular area. And the Minister of Security office also is being surrounded by the special force. So it means this has been confirmed by myself. I'm seeing the special force surrounding the Minister of Security office. The situation is very, very confusing, but negotiation is going on now. Maybe this is going to be like another situation, another neighboring countries where negotiation, we've seen negotiation going on between coup leaders and government officials.
Right.
So maybe this is the kind of thing that is going on in Guinea Conakry.
Right. Unclear, as you say, as to where the president is right now. Tell us about the reactions. Of course, this has been happening in Kaloum, which is the business district of Conakry. It is Sunday, so it wouldn't be as busy as it would be on a weekday. But there have been reactions. I mean, people are scared, but there have been celebrations, I understand, in some other parts of Conakry.
When the price is this low?
Yeah, Bambeto area, commonly called the As of Conakry, the opposition stronghold. The people have been dancing, celebrating. They accept. It's like they welcome any coup, and they welcome all the social media messages that is going around them. The coup d'etat. So it's very, very confusing. The other area where you have supporters of President Alpha Conde, everybody's indoors. Everybody's indoors. Nobody's outside. Only few people we are seeing out going to grocery to get food, like bread and other food stuff. The situation is very, very confusing. I'm talking to you now, even where I'm standing.
Right.
Every journalist, and the only journalist standing around, only TV5 journalists was around just now. So it's like he's trying to escape the staff.
Okay, so a fluid situation. Thank you, Yusuf, for updating us on what's happening in Conakry. Let's bring in West Africa correspondent now, Nicholas Hack, who's also following events for us, is joining us live from Dakar. Yusuf, Nick says there that there are some sorts of negotiations going on as far as President Condé is concerned. We don't know what's happened to him or where he is right now. Just give us some context, some background to all this. It's not the first time there's an attempted coup in Guinea. What could have led to this latest tension and unrest that we're seeing?
Well, Foley, there's been growing discontent against President Alpha Condé ever since he tweaked the constitution, allowing him to run for a third term, and the outcome of this election that took place last November, that was contested by the opposition and civil society actors. And they took to the streets, and in response, there was a heavy-handed reaction, according to human rights groups and Amnesty, security forces shooting live ammunition towards protesters. And so ever since that election, there's been a situation of instability. It became the status quo for Guinea. And Alpha Condé had just a week ago passed a new bill in the parliament that irked a lot of people, especially members of the security forces, where he essentially allowed himself a pay increase for the presidency and himself, and a pay decrease for civil servants, including members of the security forces. Now, the gunfire that we've seen in Conakry, the battle that's been
Nicholas,
happening.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, because we're getting live pictures from state television in Guinea right now, for the RTG, which is a state-owned television, and we see soldiers on TV right now addressing, it seems, the nation. The picture is frozen for a second, but hopefully we'll get it back on. They've been delivering a statement, it would appear. Unclear who these soldiers are, but a number of them, about 10 soldiers on the national TV in Guinea right now, addressing the nation. This is, of course, pointing to the confusing situation. Let's try and listen in a bit, and I'll try to translate if I can.
Un système qui n'existe pas. Et ce système, il faut qu'on le fasse tous ensemble. Il y a eu beaucoup de morts pour rien, beaucoup de blessés, beaucoup de larmes. Alors qu'on aime tous la Guinée. Donc, je pense qu'il est temps pour nous de se comprendre, de se donner la main, de s'asseoir, d'écrire une constitution qui est adaptée à nos réalités, capable de régler nos problèmes. Parce que si vous voyez l'état de nos routes, si vous voyez l'état de nos hôpitaux, vous vous rendez compte qu'après 62 ans, il est temps pour nous.
Okay, let me just translate a bit of what we've heard there from that army commander. I'm not clear what his rank is, but he says it's now time for Guinea to unite. It's time for us to create a new constitution which is capable of addressing the country's issues. This is increasingly looking like a coup d'etat, Nick Hack, with these soldiers now appearing on national television addressing the people of Guinea.
That's right. In fact, there's been a video circulating on social media where we see members of the Red Beret, the Presidential Guard, addressing people, addressing fellow soldiers to rally on their cause. And in that speech, they explained that there were too many deaths and that it's time to sit down, perhaps rewrite a constitution, adapted to the circumstances of Guinea, talking about the situation in hospitals and at schools. Essentially, during the rule of Alpha Condé, there's been a huge increase in the economic prospects. A country that's wealthy in iron ore and exports have been increasing rapidly, especially to China, Russia, and to Europe. But the circumstances of ordinary Guineans have gone from bad to worse. Most people live on less than $2 a day. They've struggled through the economic pandemic where there were heavy restrictions put in place. And many people who live just on $2 a day and that get by on a day's wage, well, they weren't able to survive. And also the heavy-handedness of the security forces and this sense amongst a portion of Guinea's population that they weren't being represented by Alpha Conde. Remember, during the last election, the Office of the United Nations Watch on Genocide pointed out that Alpha Conde should calm down on his rhetoric, his ethnic rhetoric in this country where the Fulanis make up the majority, but the Malinke, from which he is from, have taken up key position in the government and security forces. So there was growing division within society there.
Okay, we've lost. We lost it. We still have those pictures from RTG, the national broadcaster in Guinea. While they're leaving now, the people who were speaking from the army, unclear who's in charge right now. I know you've watched a lot of the same videos as I have, Nick, of these soldiers, Red Berets, who are the presidential guard, of course. Is it clear now who's in charge? Who do we see in that video, you think, of these soldiers speaking on national television?
Well, what's interesting is we've seen the Red Berets, the presidential guards that are meant to protect the president, now holding the president under arrest. But we've also seen the elite special forces that have been on the ground, it seems, coordinating with these Red Berets. And one name has been floating around social media, Mamadou Doumbouya, who is the head of the special forces, a former French legionnaire who came in 2018 to reinforce these special forces. And he's been accused by the government, who saw him with suspicion, of trying to move away from the Ministry of Defense to gain greater independence and seen as perhaps a foe to the president. But what's clear in this message and this action that we've seen of these special forces, these armed forces, that they feel that the civilian rule or the democratic way isn't representing Guineans, and they felt that they should take over power to bring what they believe is a new Guinea, a feeling perhaps emulating what happened in a neighboring country in Mali, where we've seen the military takeover when there was a popular uprising and popular protests against the president there. We have to remember fully that in Guinea there's been protest for the last year that you and I have been covering in the region, protesting the rule of Alpha Conde, and that may explain why these emboldened soldiers took to what they're doing right now.
Let me just remind our viewers, Nick, of what we're watching right now. These are the latest pictures coming to us from Guinea state broadcaster RTG. It is now past 5 p.m. in Guinea, 5:12 p.m. It's GMT time. No, actually 5:12 p.m. here in Doha. So that's 14:12 p.m. GMT in Guinea. And soldiers have appeared on national television addressing Guineans and saying that now is the time for Guinea to unite and create a new constitution that would address the country's problems. As Nick Hack said there, this increasingly looks like a coup d'etat against President Alpha Conde. And this coup reportedly has been led by Lieutenant Colonel Doumbouya, who has been, we understand, speaking on national television. He said that borders of the country have been closed and the current constitution of Guinea has been suspended until a new one is created. As Nick Hack said, this is not the first time there's been a coup attempt in Guinea. Unclear as to the extent of the success of this one, because we still don't know the whereabouts of President Alpha Conde. Nick, stand by. We'll bring you in just a second. In the meantime, let's speak to Marie-Roger Biloa, who's CEO of Africa International Media Group, and she's joining us via Skype from Paris. I imagine the French watching what's happening in Guinea very closely, Marie-Roger, given that it's one of their former colonies and a lot of French interests in that country. Does this coup or attempted coup, if we may call it that, come as a surprise to you?
Well, of course, obviously, it's very much, people are following very closely what is happening here in Guinea. I must say, since election earlier this year, the tension has grown, and it's not, it did not become lower, the tension. And the situation in Mali was also in 20-something. And we have been hearing of rumors of coup a couple of weeks ago, and we sort of, it's always surprising when it really happens. And what we know so far is that the head of the special forces, Mr. Buya, had an argument yesterday with the Minister of Defense. And this has it had been alluded to the bad relationship they had together, and then that started early this morning. And what we believed is that he could not rally all the security forces of Guinea, and that he was mastering only the special forces. But it doesn't seem to be true. But still, they could capture the president. They have the president in their hands, in their custody. But there is a communique of the Minister of Defense saying, well, they are still fighting. There is an attempted coup. It didn't work. They are urging everyone to.
Unclear right now. Even though we're seeing these pictures of these soldiers on national television, which is very often what happens in many African countries in that region anyway. When a coup happens, the soldiers go on TV and say, "Okay, we've done this. We're now in charge." But at this stage in Guinea, it's unclear who's in charge or whether this coup has been successful or not. The army in Guinea, to what extent has it been united around President Condé? That has been, many people would say, his strength in all these years as he's been in power, including during this controversial third term, has been his ability to maintain the army around him, surround himself with a strong army. But now these cracks seem to have appeared within the military.
Yes, and the special forces were, let's say, they are considered the Malinki, same ethnic group
as the president, indeed.
And he was trusting them. But I must say, this third term was not settled yet, unlike Cote d'Ivoire, where there was also a third term issue. But you see political life reviving. Laurent Gbagbo came back. They are creating new parties, new coalition. But
Marie-Roger, it's interesting that you talk about Ivory Coast, and I want to ask you something about that. I mean, there are those who say, the cynics anyway, would say that the difference between Ivory Coast and Guinea and the fact that Alassane Ouattara was able to go on with this third term is that because he had the backing of the former colonial power, France. To what extent is or was France still supporting Alpha Condé?
Yeah, okay. France is not at all supporting Alpha Condé. That is true. That the relationship is very different with President Ouattara. And as a matter of fact, President Alpha Condé in France for over 2 years, which is unusual. He just came back from holiday in Germany or some other places, not France anymore. And I know there were forces around him trying to reconcile Alpha Condé with France. And even this week, I meet with people who are speaking about that, said we cannot go on having that bad relationship with France. What can happen exactly? So that was a concern.
Okay.
So I trust that the military special forces knew that President Condé won't have any backing from France if they do the coup.
Okay, interesting to talk to you about this. Of course, we are in unknown territory here as far as what is happening in Conakry and what's going to happen. Marie-Roger Biloa, thank you so much for joining us.
I think I have one more video. Let's see.
And with that call, farmers in India are upping the ante. Hundreds of thousands of them gather in Muzaffarnagar, 3 hours drive away from New Delhi. It's the largest rally since farmers began protesting last November, and it comes 6 months ahead of state elections.
Farmers have been protesting for 9 months, but the government is not paying heed to their concerns. Modi's government is behaving like they're dictators. They're not listening and are making life difficult for farmers.
Farmers are not getting the right price for their produce. The price of sugarcane hasn't increased in 5 years, but the price of fuel and electricity has doubled. Inflation is shooting through the roof. The BJP claims farmers' incomes have doubled. What math are they using? They should tell us.
They're opposing 3 agriculture laws passed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government last year. Farmers say the rules will damage their livelihoods and favor big corporations. They want them repealed. 11 rounds of talks between farmers' unions and the government have failed to resolve the standoff, and several people were injured in violence last week when police broke up a sit-in staged by farmers in the northern state of Haryana. Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party says the farmers have little backing.
Do they have the mass support? I said no, because look at the level of participation. You have sporadic participation. You have participation by force in terms of blockade of roads, or if you are perpetrating violence like what happened in Haryana.
Protesters are now making their fight against the BJP government an election issue.
8 years ago, riots broke out between Hindus and Muslims here in Muzaffarnagar in western Uttar Pradesh. That benefited the BJP, which rose to power at the centre and the state with the backing of the Hindu vote. With this rally, that community is trying to mend bridges with the Muslims and weaken the BJP ahead of polls next February.
Many political analysts say the BJP has lost significant support because of the dispute.
Who are these farmers? So the people belonging to Jat community, which are the dominant peasantry class in western UP, and they have a very sizable presence in almost say 60-70 assembly constituencies in western UP. And if we look at the voting patterns, if we look at the electoral verdict of 2017 assembly elections, they have voted for BJP in a very large number.
The mass gathering marks the start of a new phase in the protests. The farmers say they won't back down until their demands are met, and they have called for a national shutdown on September 25th. Pavni Mittal, Al Jazeera, Muzaffarnagar, Uttar Pradesh.
So we begin
Okay,
with
that's
story out of Guinea.
that's all the video I wanted to share for today. And Indians farmers demanding the removal of new laws, and saying inflation and other reasons, the new laws favoring rich merchants instead of farmers. So the government should address their concern before it's too late. It's more than 9 months. They have been marching for almost 9 months, and the government, as you heard, is not listening to them. So they just continue their protest until their demand is met. I want to conclude by saying good luck for Mali. I hope it will be a peaceful transfer. I didn't hear a big issue, except the president, try to be in power longer and increasing his salary and decreasing the salary of others. But when you compare to the problems we have in Ethiopia, there's a big issue we have in Ethiopia. Very, very devastating issue. Bloodbaths every day. Death and destruction, instability, inflation, unemployment. Despite of all these major problems we have in Ethiopia, we are not seeing protests against the government or some kind of action against Prosperity Party or against Abiy Ahmed. It's ridiculous in that country. I hope something will happen to end the bloodshed in that country. I hope. This is ridiculous. I don't know why Ethiopians are acting like this, why they are silent when their livelihood is destroying, where the country is destroying in front of their eyes. Inflation, people cannot even afford to buy food, some other basic stuff. So we want a peaceful transfer of power in Ethiopia too. Yeah, it's very bad, in a very bad shape. The war is still tense. People are dying every day for what? For the control of PP in that country. So I hope mercy will come for that country. I hope, without too much bloodshed. It's already much bloodshed is happening. We just pray for that. And in conclusion, I'm happy for humanitarian aid coming to going through safely to the people in need in Tigray region. They have been suffering for a while. So that's a good news. So I wanna finish today's updates by saying have or enjoy happy Labor Days with barbecue and a family get together, whatever you wanna do. But have a nice Labor Day. I will be back with other news and updates. Please subscribe, like my video, comment on my video so we can grow concerned citizens media, so it can be the voice for the voiceless. Thank you again. Be safe. So long, everyone.